For you folks that are actually following me on some of my shows, I've been doing this for a long time. So I've set up a little studio. I'm an amateur, but I've done it myself. And I've had some mics. But I brought a guest in, and by God, has he taught me a thing or two. So welcome, Jordan. This is Jordan Greville, by the way, folks, and he's from New Zealand Audio Editors.
That's me. We've known each other a long while, but this is the first time we've actually met each other in person.
Yeah, because we talk online quite a lot.
Yeah.
And in fact, he's taught me quite a lot in terms of how to do, you explain your work.
Well, you ring me every 5 minutes and say, how do I fix this? And I tell you how to fix it.
Very true. Particularly
with Zoom. Zoom is one of those platforms that everyone's trying to figure out. But essentially, the business essentially does podcast production and distribution, and also audiobook editing and distribution, and production. So audiobooks and podcasts, you think of those two things, you think, you need good sound, you need an easy way to distribute it, and I basically turn up with all my gear. You say what you want to say, I get out of your site, and it goes online. So
the first time we met, there was a common friend wanted me to be part of a show that she wanted to host, but in fact they got you to facilitate it, and that's where I was highly impressed, because in the end we actually went further with this, but we had hundreds of people watching us live, and you facilitated that on Zoom. By God, I was frightened, because if you mess that up, hundreds of people are waiting. Yeah. It's quite nerve-wracking, but you're a professional, and that took all the stress away. Plus, the quality of the show was right up there from other Zooms I'd done.
Mm-hmm. It was a fantastic event. So that's something that happened with COVID, is I had to sort of transition the business a bit and go into what people wanted, which was online events, because now nobody can get together. A little different right now, but in that period of time, no one could get together. So, but business still wanted to add value to their clients or potential clients. So Zoom webinars was a fantastic way to do that. And your example, it was a question and answer situation. Whoever was watching could ask whatever questions they wanted, and get all the answers they wanted.
So if you've got a particular field, folks, like in my particular field, I do employment law, and in this area that we talk to accountants, and I think we did a series of 3 of them, but we must have done about 200 accountants who were watching our show. Now, a bloody good idea, but how nerve-wracking it would be if you set that up without Jordan's help. But having Jordan, you were actually, I've got to say, cost-effective too. It wasn't overly expensive.
I'll take that. Maybe I need to put my prices up. I wanted you to say you were worth the money, not cost-effective.
Well, I tell you, from a business sense, that's exactly how we look at things. Is it worth it and whatever? And you were worth it by miles.
Good.
Now, let me tell you another quick little story, folks, about this goose beside me here. Actually, I'm quite fond of this bloke. But he arrived today. We're not met physically and personally. And I've got these fancy mics in here. I'm very proud of this setup. And guess what he did? He bought his own mics along. How offensive was that? And anyway, we compared the costs. Mine were about $100 each, which I thought was huge cost. And his are about $1,000. So this mic I'm using now and his one are about $1,000 each. But by God, the difference in quality is enormous. This video will be going to you. It will sound better. It will be more dynamic. And by the way, the camera switching relies on sound volume, and it does it automatically. But it is so improved because of Jordan's mics. So it's very important you get Jordan's bloody experience here.
Yeah, look, advice is probably the favorite thing I like to give as part of this company, is solving a problem for someone just because they didn't know, and you only know what you know. And when someone calls me, it's it feels like a privilege when I can actually answer the question and help. Even when you ring me up, it's good. I like being able to solve the problems that you're having, because it means your life's a little bit easier, and you can rely on someone else to understand something that you don't necessarily need to understand. You can just ask. So
I'll tell you what, Jordan, I would never do a podcast. I do them all. I mean, I talk to people all the time. I do interviews by Zoom. But what I would never do is a podcast like we did on my own, because the quality, and you need someone to oversee it, and you're the perfect person for that. And I do tell you, folks, you're not spending thousands of dollars with Jordan. He's within a few $100s, and it's actually worth every cent because you know that it's out there, it's going live, it's quality, and he's there. If there's a problem, he'll be there to fix it because he's right there behind the scenes and can do it. And you will host as well, I see.
Yeah. So you and I have done something where I asked you the questions and you answered them. So I've done a bit of podcasting myself. That's kind of how I started, and then I realised how passionate I was about doing the editing side of it. And then there's a whole nother world with audiobooks too, where it's sort of it's a big thing now. People are listening rather than reading. They can drive their car and listen to a book rather than having to try and read their book while they're driving their car, which is...
is that what it is? Is that what you do? So if someone's written a book, they could voice it over or pay someone to voice it over.
Exactly.
And you will facilitate all that.
You could be the voice. If anyone needs a voiceover, mate, I know who I'm calling.
Once upon a time, many years ago, and Mary had a little lamb.
I think... Now that I think about it, I think you'd be great for that. Sometimes they read their own books.
Small charge.
Small charge. Sometimes they read their own books. Sometimes they don't. But essentially, I just sit there and record the whole process. If something goes wrong, if they get some words muddled up, we just cut that little bit and carry on. Depending on the book, it depends how long it takes. But the royalties for audiobooks are much better than paperback. So when you buy a book via audio, something like 70% of the proceeds go directly to the author, whereas a paperback's like 15% if you're lucky, I think.
So do you would you add in like a dramatic pause where it's needed? Like if I was reading something, I'd go, and Max Whitehead did this and did this and this, but you actually might need, he did this, and then he did that. So you put them in to give it that extra quality?
Yeah, I can do that. There's quite a lot of post-editing that goes on with audiobooks. They have to be very, very specifically edited to suit the software because essentially they have to be all exactly the same on the platform that you post, so that in terms of frequencies and things like that, they don't want a whole lot of variation with the sound of an audiobook. They want it to be, whoever's talking, they want it to be pretty much, across the board, very similar.
Or don't come up with this high-tech stuff with me, but would you even add an introduction music to give it that professionalism?
Yeah, you can do all sorts of things. Some people have music right through. Some people have it at certain points. There's a lot more work in that. One I did recently, he just had music on his introduction to the book and then music kind of on the outro, the acknowledgements, that sort of stuff, and then in between it was just, him talking. So all sorts of different ways you can do it. You can do different voices. You can have, for kids' books, they often do that. They have, someone like you being the big bad wolf, and there's someone like me being Goldilocks, or, somebody, the bears, or...
And I'd be Little Red Riding Hood, wouldn't I?
Red Riding Hood, there you go. I got my fairy tales mixed up there. You had me stumped.
Oh, yeah, Snow White. I really am. And then my name is Snow White. Yeah, but that's exactly...
What's your best woman's voice, mate? Go.
Well, really, Jordan, you're such a handsome brute. There you go. I wouldn't even pass for a woman.
Mate.
No, I failed dismally. Look, thanks for coming in. And look, we want to hear more about this. And I think you and I should do we should do something and actually bring it along, and then people can watch what you're doing. We should do some samples. Yeah. Or maybe you bring some samples in next time we're here, and we could examine them, talk about them, tone, frequencies, all those things, those technical things you're dying to tell us about. And
you don't want to hear about that, though.
No, I don't. No. I'll tell you when I don't want to hear about something.
That's good. Keep straight shooter, mate.
All righty.
Keep it real.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right.
Ciao for now.
See you.